There was a time when the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy could heal any wound, cure any illness, and mend even the most broken body. To most, it seemed as if nothing could stand in the way of this perfect system of healing. But then, they encountered humans. Imagine a species that could recover from injuries that would cripple any other race in the universe. A species whose strength didn't come from machines or advanced technology, but from an innate ability to heal, adapt, and overcome. When their leaders first observed the way humans could endure and heal naturally, they were baffled. It made no sense. These beings were fragile, soft, and filled with flaws. Yet, time and again, they defied expectations. They took hits that would have left others in the morgue and walked away with barely a limp. On their world, injuries that would have been fatal for anyone else were shrugged off as though they were nothing. No need for complicated surgeries, no reliance on highly specialized treatments. It was as if humans' very biology had a built-in recovery mechanism that rivaled the most sophisticated healing technologies. Their bodies, capable of pushing through trauma with little more than rest and determination, left the galaxy's most brilliant medical minds perplexed. No machine could replicate the resilience of a human body. No amount of advanced technology could force their healing process to work faster or better. Even after being exposed to an environment that should have caused permanent damage, humans showed no lasting effects. The scientists were stunned, unsure whether they should be impressed or fearful. What made humans even more fascinating and terrifying was how this ability didn't just apply to their physical recovery. It was their unyielding will to push forward. On a battlefield, in a hospital bed, or even in the face of disaster, humans could rise, adapt, and recover in ways that seemed utterly alien to the other species. The very things that would break other races down, that would force them to falter and crumble, only seemed to strengthen humanity's resolve. The more they studied, the more they realized these beings weren't just tough, they were resilient beyond comprehension. But even in their highest medical halls, their most advanced healing centers, they began to ask the question, could they replicate this? Could they harness this unshakable strength that seemed embedded deep within the human's DNA? And what would it mean for their species, their empire, if they could? These were questions that had never been posed, questions that could change the galaxy forever. For decades, they had prided themselves on being the ultimate in medical innovation. Their technology had healed every imaginable injury, perfected procedures, and saved countless lives. Yet, here were humans, surviving situations that would have been fatal for any other race without any external assistance. The more the scientists dug into the human's biology, the more it seemed like something impossibly powerful was at work, something they couldn't comprehend. They began trying to reverse-engineer human recovery, seeking to replicate the strange balance of adaptation and strength that allowed them to bounce back from even the most grievous injuries. They pushed their technology to new limits, creating machines designed to accelerate human healing. They tested on their own kind, testing the boundaries of their medical sciences in hopes of mastering this elusive ability. But each time they thought they were getting closer, something failed. It wasn't just the technology that couldn't replicate human recovery, it was the idea that a species could heal in ways that technology itself couldn't understand. It was a mystery no algorithm could predict, no machine could solve. And so, their desperation grew. With every failed experiment, the question lingered. If humans could heal like this naturally, what would happen if their technology joined forces with that innate ability? Could they unlock an unstoppable force, a healing power so advanced that even the galaxy's most devastating wounds would be nothing more than a memory? Or perhaps more terrifyingly, would the humans resist such an alliance? Would they reject the very technology they had no need for, preferring to rely on their own inexplicable strength? Their fascination with humanity only grew stronger. They believed they could find the answers they were looking for in the humans themselves. Some hoped to study them, to understand them, to dissect their biology and reveal the secret to their unmatched healing ability. Others, more ambitious, began to consider a darker possibility. What if they could break humanity's will to heal? What if they could push humans past their breaking point, test their endurance in ways never seen before? Could they defeat a species that could heal from anything? But as the experiments continued, something unexpected began to happen. The humans, while injured, didn't show fear. They didn't beg for the miraculous cures the other races had grown accustomed to. Instead, they endured. And in the face of this raw, unfiltered resilience, the others began to realize they might be the ones who were wrong. Could the key to healing lie not in medical tech, but in the very essence of who humans were? The tension between their reliance on technology and humanity's natural recovery reached its peak when the humans, left for dead on an alien battlefield, simply didn't die. They didn't follow the expected narrative. They didn't succumb to the injuries that should have claimed their lives. And when they returned, not only had they healed, but they were stronger than before. The rest of the galaxy watched in awe, their worldviews shattered. What would the aliens do now? Would they dare to learn from the humans? Or would they continue to try and bend their resilience to the will of technology? Would they find a way to control this impossible power, or would they finally accept that, sometimes, the greatest healing comes not from science, but from the heart of the beings themselves? As the alien forces continued to scramble, seeking answers to questions that had never before been posed, one thing was certain: they had underestimated humanity in ways they couldn't undo. And now, in the face of their greatest mystery, they would have to choose accept the impossible or face the consequences of their arrogance. The alien world, once proud of its medical advancements, began to feel something it had never known before: doubt. Their most prestigious hospitals, filled with glowing chambers and machines capable of regenerating tissue and repairing organs in mere hours, suddenly seemed insignificant. How could their perfect healing systems compare to something as inexplicable as human resilience? There were whispers among the council of medical experts, a growing unease that perhaps they had overlooked something fundamental about humanity. This wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about biology, about willpower, about something the aliens couldn't control. Across the galaxy, a small group of human survivors had become something of a legend. They weren't soldiers, nor were they particularly remarkable individuals in any traditional sense. Yet, they had endured an assault that should have wiped them off the map. A war that no one expected humans to survive had turned into something of a study in resilience. Their bodies had been broken, battered, and exposed to toxins that would have left anyone else incapacitated. And yet, when they returned, they didn't just recover, they thrived. This group, known only as the Silent Few, had become the focal point of intense interest. There were many theories about how they had managed to survive. Some believed it was their diet, some thought it was their unique genetic makeup, while others believed it was a matter of sheer determination. What was undeniable, however, was that the Silent Few were no longer the exception; they had become the rule. Even those who had witnessed their recovery firsthand had trouble believing it. They were warriors, yes, but they were also something more: a mystery that couldn't be solved by even the most advanced medical scans. The aliens had assumed that once they isolated the human factor, once they studied enough of these survivors, probed deep enough into their cells, extracted every possible sample, they would finally understand how it all worked. They sent emissaries to Earth, expecting a quick exchange of knowledge, a way to expedite the process. But when they arrived, they encountered resistance they didn't expect. Humanity didn't open its doors willingly. There were no eager scientists offering up their most prized medical secrets. Instead, there was silence. And behind that silence, a quiet warning: humans weren't interested in sharing. It was a decision that shook the alien delegation to its core. Why weren't the humans cooperating? What did they fear would happen if they revealed the true nature of their healing abilities? Did they, perhaps, understand something the aliens didn't? Or, more troubling still, was there a reason why they wanted to keep their resilience hidden from the rest of the galaxy? Behind the scenes, an undercurrent of tension began to build. The Council of Medical Leaders, who had once been united in their pursuit of answers, found themselves divided. Some advocated for continued study, pushing forward with their plans to use every technological means at their disposal to extract the knowledge they craved. Others, more cautious and respectful of the humans' apparent desire for privacy, urged a different approach. They suggested that maybe, just maybe, humanity knew something the galaxy needed to understand before it was too late. Meanwhile, on Earth, a small group of doctors and researchers had begun their own investigation into the human healing process. They weren't part of any official medical program or government initiative. They were independent, driven not by the need for recognition or glory, but by a genuine desire to understand. They had studied the silent few and other survivors, carefully documenting their physical recoveries, their mental states, and their biological responses. What they found was both astonishing and disturbing. It wasn't just the body that healed. It was the mind. Humans didn't just recover physically, they adapted mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. Something inside them pushed them forward, not just to survive, but to grow. Each time a human faced a traumatic injury, their body seemed to rewire itself, becoming stronger in places where it had once been weak. The mind, too, underwent a transformation and adaptation to pain, suffering, and loss, leading to a more profound understanding of their own capabilities. This wasn't a miracle. It was evolution at work. Humans had developed a mechanism of survival that didn't rely on technology or external aid. It was a survival trait encoded in their very DNA. And that, the researchers began to suspect, was exactly why the aliens were so desperate to understand them. The more the aliens tried to reverse engineer the human recovery process, the more they realized it wasn't something they could replicate. This wasn't just about physical strength, it was a psychological phenomenon, an adaptive trait that had developed over centuries of human struggle. The stakes had risen higher than anyone had anticipated. As the aliens pushed forward with their plans, hoping to unlock the secrets of human resilience, they began to make a disturbing discovery. The more they tried to manipulate the human body, the more it fought back. The silent few had been subjected to countless medical procedures and tests, each one meant to accelerate or artificially replicate their recovery process. But with each procedure, they grew stronger. Their bodies adapted in ways that shouldn't have been possible, and their minds, once passive in the face of the tests, began to fight back as well. It was as if their very nature was rejecting the aliens' interference. The question now wasn't just about whether humanity could heal itself. It was about whether humanity could heal in spite of the galaxy's greatest medical technologies. Was there something deeply ingrained within their species that made them immune to external manipulation? Or was it that the aliens simply had no way of understanding human biology in its purest form? In the shadows of these developments, a new threat was quietly taking shape. It wasn't enough for the aliens to simply study the humans they wanted control. They wanted to harness this strange resilience and make it their own. And as the covert operations began, more and more humans began to disappear. What had begun as a scientific curiosity was rapidly becoming a race for survival. Back on Earth, an underground resistance movement had started to grow, its members united by the knowledge that humanity's greatest gift was being hunted by forces beyond their comprehension. They knew that if the aliens succeeded in controlling human healing, it would be the end of humanity as they knew it. And so, they prepared not just to defend their people, but to expose the truth behind the aliens' interest. It was no longer just a matter of survival. It was a matter of keeping the essence of what made humanity unique, untouched, and free. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, the whispers began again. How far would the aliens go to control the very thing that made humanity immortal? Would the silent few be enough to stop them? Or was the future of human resilience already slipping away? The delicate balance that had held between the humans and the alien powers was starting to unravel. The aliens had underestimated humanity's will to survive, but now they were beginning to understand just how deeply ingrained that survival instinct was. As their experiments grew bolder, the humans' resistance only grew stronger, almost as if the more they were tested, the more their bodies and minds adapted. It wasn't just physical resilience anymore. It was as if humanity was unlocking some deeper, hidden potential, something even the aliens could not have anticipated. On the surface, the human resistance movement had become more organized. Small cells began to form, sharing intelligence, gathering resources, and strategizing for the inevitable confrontation. But beneath the surface, a more dangerous shift was occurring. The silent few, those who had survived the initial wave of alien experimentation, began to display strange behavior. They were healing faster than anyone could explain, yes, but they were also changing in other ways. Their thoughts seemed sharper, their reflexes quicker, and their minds clearer. It was as if the very trauma they had endured had unlocked something within them, something that no one had predicted. As the silent few grew more powerful, the alien powers became desperate. Their initial desire to learn from humanity's healing process had slowly shifted into something darker, a need to control it. They had not anticipated that their attempts to manipulate the human body would only make it stronger. Every test, every attempt to inject human subjects with advanced medical technology only seemed to amplify the humans' innate ability to heal. It was as though the very essence of human survival rejected the notion that their strength could be artificially enhanced. The unexpected twist came when the Alien Medical Council made a terrifying discovery. The silent few weren't the only humans affected by their research. There were others, hundreds, maybe thousands, who had begun to exhibit signs of accelerated healing. It wasn't just the individuals they had been testing, it was anyone who had been exposed to the technology, even indirectly. The aliens realized, too late, that humanity's resilience wasn't limited to a few select individuals. It was spreading rapidly. The very moment they tried to control one human, they inadvertently unleashed a ripple effect that was growing out of their reach. This discovery sent shockwaves through the alien ranks. At first, they believed they could suppress it, contain it to a small group of humans they had studied closely. But as the phenomenon spread, it became clear that this was no ordinary ability. The more the aliens pushed, the more human bodies seemed to adapt. And it wasn't just the physical adaptations that had changed. Humans were becoming more attuned to the alien presence, more aware of the manipulations happening around them. It was as though the bond between human and environment was growing stronger, more intuitive. The silent few were no longer isolated cases. They had become the vanguard of a much larger, much more dangerous movement. With this newfound awareness, the resistance on Earth became more aggressive. It was no longer about surviving the alien tests or protecting their people from harm. Now, it was about reclaiming their identity, their humanity. They knew that if the aliens succeeded in controlling this adaptation, they could enslave the entire species, turning humans into mere tools for the alien empires. But the silent few, who had once been seen as the ultimate examples of human resilience, were now something entirely different. They were evolving, and it wasn't clear if this evolution would save humanity or doom it. What made this situation even more precarious was the sudden appearance of a new faction within the Alien Council. A faction that was no longer interested in studying humanity's resilience, but in exploiting it for warfare. This faction, led by a charismatic yet ruthless alien general, saw the human ability to heal as the perfect weapon. They were already discussing the potential of using human bodies to create a new generation of super soldiers warriors who could fight without fear of death or injury. The general's vision was simple. If humans could heal without limitation, why not train them to fight wars on an unprecedented scale? Why not make them the perfect weapon, an army that could never be defeated? The consequences of this line of thinking were horrifying. The silent few had endured unspeakable pain, but they had done so because they were individuals fighting for survival. What would happen if they were turned into tools, weapons without agency, without choice? Could their healing process, their very humanity, be twisted into something monstrous? Could this new alien faction harness human resilience in a way that would forever change the fate of the species? As the stakes continued to escalate, a chilling realization began to dawn on the human resistance leaders. The aliens weren't simply interested in conquering them, they were trying to reshape humanity into something unrecognizable. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about saving the soul of humanity from forces that wanted to turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. And the worst part? The humans were running out of time. The alien faction was already beginning to put their plans into motion. In the midst of this brewing storm, one of the silent few, who had long been silent on the subject, spoke up. He revealed that his healing ability had evolved beyond just physical recovery. He had begun to experience vivid, almost prophetic dreams, visions of a future where humanity was not just the victim of alien manipulation, but the ultimate victor. These visions, however, came with a price. They were growing more intense, more violent. Every time he recovered from an injury, the visions became harder to control, and soon he feared they would consume him entirely. What he didn't know, however, was that these dreams were more than just a side effect of his accelerated healing. They were a warning, a signal that the very fabric of reality was shifting, that the lines between the humans' evolving biology and the alien forces were becoming dangerously blurred. As the resistance scrambled to decipher these visions, they were confronted with a terrifying question: could humanity's own power be the key to both their salvation and their destruction? The tension had reached a breaking point. The aliens were desperate to control the healing. The humans were fighting to protect their identity, and a new, more sinister force had emerged from within their own ranks. With everything at stake, the galaxy was on the brink of a revolution that no one could predict, and one that would forever change the nature of life itself. The alien forces had pushed their experiments further than ever before, seeking to harness the mysterious healing ability that had baffled them for so long. But in their pursuit of control, they had underestimated one thing. The very thing that made humans resilient was their unyielding determination to remain free, to remain human. The silent few who had been at the center of the conflict were no longer just survivors. They had become symbols of humanity's strength. But their struggle was far from over. In a final, desperate move, the alien faction, determined to turn humans into soldiers, began the largest operation yet. They would abduct thousands, experiment on them, and build a new army of super soldiers. The operation was swift and brutal. The humans fought back with everything they had, but it seemed as though the aliens were finally achieving their goal. Each abduction, each procedure only seemed to push humanity closer to the brink. Yet, just as the aliens thought they were on the verge of total victory, something unexpected happened. The silent few, led by the one who had begun experiencing prophetic visions, made a bold move. They infiltrated the alien stronghold, armed not with weapons, but with knowledge. The visions he had experienced were not just dreams, they were the key to unlocking something far greater than physical healing. They revealed a truth that neither the aliens nor humans had fully understood. Humanity's ability to heal wasn't just biological. It was something deeper, something intertwined with their very consciousness. It was a manifestation of their spirit, their ability to adapt and change not just their bodies, but their world around them. The silent few had become conduits of this power, and they weren't just healing, they were rewriting the narrative. The twist came when the silent few, using their newfound connection to this power, began to reverse the flow of the aliens' technology. They were able to disconnect the invasive systems designed to control and exploit humanity's healing abilities. But more than that, they were able to tap into a force that went beyond their bodies. It was as if the collective will of humankind, when focused, could alter the fabric of reality itself. The silent few began to undo the damage done to their people, healing not just their wounds, but their minds and their very sense of self. They were no longer victims of alien experimentation, they were shaping the future of their species. In a climactic battle, the silent few clashed with the alien faction. But this time, the humans were no longer just fighting to survive, they were fighting to reclaim their future. As the alien forces began to falter under the unexpected strength of the humans, it became clear that this wasn't just a war of weapons, it was a war of wills. The humans' resilience, their refusal to be controlled, proved to be the ultimate weapon. The aliens, for all their advanced technology, could not understand this force. They were bound by logic, by science, but humanity was bound by something more powerful, the belief that no force, no matter how advanced, could ever strip them of their identity. But just when it seemed that the humans had won, a new revelation emerged. The visions had not just been a guide, they had been a warning. The strange force that humans had tapped into, the power they had harnessed, was not without its consequences. In their quest to heal and adapt, the humans had unknowingly begun to tap into the very fabric of the universe itself. The more they used their power, the more the boundaries between their reality and the alien world began to blur. The very existence of their world was at risk. In a final, heart-stopping decision, the leader of the silent few made a sacrifice. He used the full extent of the power within him to stabilize the fabric of reality, severing the link between the humans and the alien forces once and for all. The result was catastrophic, but it saved humanity. The alien faction was cast into a state of disarray, their attempts to control humanity shattered. The resistance was victorious, but the price was high. In the aftermath, humanity was left to rebuild. The world had changed. The power that had once made them resilient now had the potential to reshape the very laws of nature. But for all their victory, the humans knew they could never take this gift for granted. They had learned that strength wasn't just about surviving the worst of what the universe could throw at them, it was about never losing sight of what made them human, their capacity for growth, their will to fight, and their ability to adapt no matter what. As the last of the alien invaders retreated, the humans looked to the horizon, uncertain of what the future held. But one thing was clear, they would face it together. The journey ahead was unknown, but they had survived the impossible. And with that, humanity had earned its place among the stars, not as a species to be studied or controlled, but as a force to be reckoned with, a species that would never stop fighting for its future. And as the final scene unfolded, with humanity united and stronger than ever before, the leader of the silent few, now restored to his full health, stood looking up at the stars. The visions had ended. But somewhere, in the quiet corners of the universe, the seeds of a new adventure were being sown. It wasn't just the aliens who would have to watch out for humanity, humanity would be watching them too.